world of service and ops is kind of where I sat. And the opportunity really after many years of experience to offer that experience to many rather than to the few organizations was the opportunity that developed, using great web technologies and such like. That's now the opportunity to package all of that up, turn it into a framework and provide courses and coaching programs around that to help smaller businesses as well. So they should be able to access and then leverage all the experience that I've had in the large enterprise sector, but really how do they utilize that in a startup or a small organization that's growing and scaling up? So that's what I wanted to do, and that's how the Service Revolution Academy came about.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Social Hotelier podcast with me, Sam-Erik Ruttmann. In this episode, my guest Johann Diaz, a seasoned expert in service transformation and customer experience, whose insights are particularly relevant to hospitality, tourism, and hotel professionals. With over 35 years of experience working with global leaders like Unilever, Vodafone, Johann now helps organizations rethink service delivery in the world shaped by AI and digital transformation. As founder of the Service Revolution Academy, he shares strategies for breaking silos and creating seamless guest experiences. Discover how your hotel or tourism business can stay competitive by adapting to evolving customer needs and using innovative service strategies. This is a must listen. So welcome, Johann, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Sam-Erik. Good to meet you and good to see everybody online.
So perhaps we can get started if you can share the background and what led you to start the Service Revolution Academy.
Yes, well, simply over 35 years worth of experience in the world of service.x, I call it. Service excellence ultimately is what I think everybody seeks to achieve. I started in the world of operational technology and customer service. That often brought into it field service. And then I got pulled into the world of IT service, as some of the software vendors were then starting to sell more and more IT service management platforms. And that's where I landed in the likes of the Unilevers and Diageos and BPs of the world and ran many of their IT service management projects and programs for a while. And so service has always been in my blood. I should say I was also chief operating officer. So the world of service and ops is kind of where I sat. And the opportunity really after many years of experience to offer that experience to many rather than to the few organizations was the opportunity that developed, using great web technologies and such like. That's now the opportunity to package all of that up, turn it into a framework and provide courses and coaching programs around that to help smaller businesses as well. So they should be able to access and then leverage all the experience that I've had in the large enterprise sector, but really, how do they utilize that in a startup or a small organization that's growing and scaling up? So that's what I wanted to do, and that's how the Service Revolution Academy came about.
Very good. Now, just to understand, how do you guide organizations to take a step back and redefine their strategy, especially when they may have lost touch with evolving customer needs? And most of the hotels and the tourism destination businesses that I'm dealing with, they tend to think they know the customer very well. But I think they tend to also forget that the needs of the customer tends to change over time. And that's why maybe a step back and redefining the strategy could be of essence. So maybe you can share how you go about this when you are dealing with, let's say, a new customer, for instance.
Yes, and that's a really valid point, Sam-Erik. So many organizations, as you say, we're all in it, right? We've all got our heads down and we're going on a daily basis. And there's nothing wrong with that. But of course, everybody knows that from time to time you need to step out of it and just go, well, actually, why are we doing what we're doing? Who are we doing it for? And do they still actually need that, to your point? And the reality, as we've all lived through, is that as both consumers and business customers, our needs have changed over the years, and as we've gone through the pandemic, for example, and with the pandemic, a massive acceleration in digital platforms and the use of digital platforms. Even though we were doing things like mobile banking and such like on our mobiles for perhaps quite a while, but I think the last, let's say, 5 years or so has really accelerated the take up. So you're absolutely right. The need for any leadership team to really step back and ask themselves the question with good evidence now, the day and age of the chief executive or the chief marketing officer or whomever having a good sense of what was happening in the market. It's not to say it's gone, but the opportunity now to have real data that is often very near real time to actually feed those conversations is fundamentally important. And actually, that's one of the other things that I offer is as I wrap around a support service around the framework, I will challenge people to say, well, when last did you actually survey either your customer base or, more importantly, your prospective customer base? And again, with the likes of AI out there, there's plenty of data out there to actually go and get very quickly, analyze it very quickly, and feed it into the decision making of the leadership team.
Yeah.
And that should be done, and it should be done on a regular basis.
Yeah. Could you just for the audience, just to understand a little bit, maybe you can share an example of a company that is a new customer for you, and then how you went about it, without maybe mentioning the name of the company, but just to get the idea what your approach to this specifically.
So, if I look in the world of technology solution providers, let's put it that way, okay, an organization that I worked with a while ago, one of the things that we had to do was I would describe them as having had a Rolls Royce of a product. And they were in kind of scale up mode, let's put it that way, just out of startup, got the investment in scale up mode. And as is often the case, they were trying to sell their product stroke service in lots of different ways, a scattergun approach. And one of the things that I and the chief marketing officer and chief sales officer did was really to take that step back, look at some of the real data, actually speak to some of the real customers, and just truly understand what problem they were trying to solve. Don't talk about technology, don't talk about anything else. Just, we'd say to them, look, tell us what problem or what opportunity you're trying to go after, and let us come up with some options around the ways you could achieve it. So we did a bit of customer research, we did a bit of market research, and as I say, there's data out there to analyze how markets are trending, especially with new technologies. There's ways of getting sentiment analysis, for example, from booking calls that the large booking agencies might have. There's data all around. If you know what problem you're trying to solve, then you can go look for the specific data that would help you make some decisions. And having done that, then we were able to bring that back into what was more of an innovation conversation internally to say, great, now we truly understand what our prospective clients would really like. Now we can tweak, alter, redirect some of the products and services that we've got available.
Yeah. The word sentiment analysis might be not very clear for people. Could you just briefly describe what does it actually mean?
Yes, of course. So at any time in a conversation like ours that we're having even now, you and I will be feeling different things. And if you now transcribe that into the conversation, whether online, whether via text, or whether via voice, with an agent who is booking, let's say, a room, a conference facility, a restaurant, whatever it might be, a flight, and so on, the customer's emotional state usually dictates how we make decisions. This is the reality of humanity, actually. We might have all the information to hand, but actually our feelings tell us something other than what the data is telling us. And 9 times out of 10, we will go with the decision of our emotions, almost irrespective of what the data says,
Yeah.
or we will look to make the data fit the emotional response. So, sentiment analysis now very cleverly uses AI agents and bots and engines behind the scenes to literally analyze the conversation that is usually happening in real time when the customer is either on the phone or online, as I say, via the chatbots or whatever, to determine how the customer or prospective customer might be feeling, and therefore give the agent the opportunity to meet the feeling and the emotional response that the customer actually wants.
Oh,
And
that's
that
ex-
results in
yeah.
a higher proportion of sales.
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, in the hotel industry, we always talk about what is service or what is hospitality. And service basically, that's basically the actual product that we offer them. But hospitality is how we make our customers feel, and then
Right.
that's how essentially this is what we are trying to achieve at all times. So yeah, thank you very much. I think it's clarifies a lot, and interesting that the AI agents are able to pick up on the nuances of a conversation and then analyze this and provide valuable information for us. That's
Yeah.
very good.
It is remarkable what
Yeah,
technology is now able to do.
yeah. So you about the customer service philosophy, you emphasize serving customers exceptionally well. What are the core principles that organizations often overlook when trying to build seamless customer experiences?
For me, there is one absolute basic mantra that I often use, which is that life is all about service. And what I mean by that is inherently, I think, as human beings, we were designed for and we were built for serving and loving each other. It's as simple as that. And everybody knows this, intuitively understands it, because it's what we do very naturally without even necessarily thinking about it. So, with that perspective, I then look at the process, if you like, that a business goes through to serve its customer or its prospective customer. That therefore starts at the beginning of the whole customer journey, which is when a prospective customer engages either with your website directly or with a third party website and they're considering buying into your product or service. So it starts right at the beginning of the journey and it goes all the way through, hopefully, having made the sale. And let's face it, sales is only serving the customer extraordinarily well so that they see the value for themselves in what it is you have to offer them and the authenticity of you in offering them what you've got and being able to demonstrate the value to them is what a sale is all about, right? And then
Yeah.
you move it into the world of service and operations. How do you, if you like, onboard them? How do you welcome them? How do you bring them into your hotel, your restaurant, wherever it is, and enable them to take up the product or service? And then, as you rightly say, how do you deliver that great experience to them throughout their stay? But also, then you've got a relationship. You've got a relationship that you can cultivate. because ideally, of course, any business wants repeat business. So you can continue to serve them all the way through, despite the fact they might not be using your services at the moment, but that doesn't stop you being able to serve them all the way through by offering them new information, new thoughts, new ideas, whatever it is they're interested in, tailoring some offerings to their preferences. And using AI to do this is now much easier than it ever was before. So, the preface of intuitively the human being understanding service means that service starts from the moment a prospective customer thinks about possibly using you and your business, all the way through to the end, essentially, where after their whole lifetime journey with you, they might do something different, or they might go away, or they might move, or whatever might happen. So it's an end to end process. And I often call it end to end service.
Very good. Yeah, in with hotels, it has been traditionally the first time we knew about the guest is at when they make a booking. But now we are going way before that, in order
Right.
actually to create a journey before that. And some of the ultra luxury hotels, once we have identified the guest and there has been initial contact, you actually have a conversation with the guest in advance to tailor their visit, so they know, so the hotel knows exactly what are the certain expectations that the guest has, whether it's going to, what kind of breakfast can we provide you, just the small things.
Absolutely.
And then finally living through that total experience with them. And in the past, it was always the idea, the last thing you knew about the hotel was when you see the grumpy cashier when you have to pay the bill, and the only thing you remember about your experience was that how cashier was not so happy looking. But I think we have, fortunately, we have gone way beyond that, and that hotels realize that one of the most important service element is the moment when you're leaving, and then how to make you feel at that point to hopefully return again. And I like the idea you talk about these AI agents, how they are how this can be analyzed in real time, and really the hotels can learn a lesson from that experience and continuously improve what they're doing.
Absolutely.
You have talked about servitization trends with the shift towards servitization, where business focus delivering service outcomes rather than the products. How should organizations adapt their models?
So, servitization, I might quickly fall into the world of operational efficiency here. So, let's take a hotel where, any size hotel has got a huge amount of equipment and products and things and machinery and all sorts of things that it uses to deliver that outstanding service, right? Let me come back to that, Sam-Erik, in a minute, because it sparked one point, actually, which talks about experience. Now, experience, if you think about the definition of experience, it is actually the consumption of a service and how we feel. So, experience is all to do back to the sentiment stuff. Experience is all about how it makes us feel. Now, you and I could experience the same service very differently because I'm not in a good mood, but you are in a good mood. Now, there's nothing different to the quality of service that the organization's provided, but our experience is quite different. So I challenge leaders to say, can you actually deliver experience? My challenge, my hypothesis is to say you can't deliver the experience. You can influence, of course, the experience, but what you can deliver is the service. And that's why the service is something you control and it has to be outstanding. So, with my two hats on, remember I've been in customer service, but I've also been in operations. So, with my operations hat on, I say from an operational efficiency perspective, the notion these days that with a connected machine, let's put it that way. Let's talk about the heating, ventilation, air conditioning system in any hotel. A fundamental piece of equipment that's running the whole show by way of the environment, massively important for the guests. Instead of having to spend hundreds of thousands, millions of pounds, euros, dollars on this machinery, which historically has been the case, now in the connected world using IoT, Internet of Things, where that machine, if you like, is online on a 24/7 basis, the manufacturer doesn't need to sell it as a one off product. Instead, and remember, let's go back to our first conversation, which is just tell me what you're trying to achieve. Well, the customer, the hotelier, would say, all I want to achieve is ambient room temperature at all times, varying overnight and during the day for all of my guests. Great. So then the manufacturer should be able to say, well, if I offer you heating as a service or cooling as a service, it means that I don't need to sell you a big capital piece of equipment. I now allow you to buy that on a subscription basis, maybe per month, maybe per user in your rooms, even. Because if I've got the technology down to managing it per room, then it now becomes a very, very different cost economy that allows the hotel management to truly manage some of their costs in a much more dynamic and real time manner. So, servitization is about turning products from manufacturers into services. So, they sell it as a service without you having to fork out huge amounts of money in capital outlay.
Yeah. Okay,
Make
that's
sense?
very good. Yeah, very good. Yeah. Maybe we can move on to the artificial intelligence integration, because we have mentioned that several times now
Yeah.
during this podcast. AI is transforming industries, as you talked about. What do you see the greatest opportunity? You mentioned the opportunity, but I'm also interested in risk of AI adaptation in enhancing customer service and operations. There are risks involved. What are your thoughts on that?
In the risks specifically,
Yeah.
um,
Well, we
there
can't
are.
cover both again. It's
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Okay, let me talk about those risks then. Yes, there are risks. Now, actually, the first risk I would challenge people with is don't wait too long before you actually start adopting, experimenting with, and engaging, and frankly, embracing AI technology. Because almost even more than when we had the dawn of the internet, and Sam-Erik, you and I were around to remember when that happened and when we started using it in business. AI, is a quantum leap even from then. And the reason it is, in large part, is because of the natural language processing. The fact that no longer does anybody need to have a degree in software engineering or a particular computer language. Now the computer speaks our natural language. So, a massive difference, which means it's now available to everybody, as we're seeing. So, anybody who is sitting there thinking, oh, I wonder what we should do, you're almost too late. Get
Yes.
out there and start trying it, start playing around with it, start experimenting, and then start thinking, how could I use this in my business? Now, then there's a question about where to start, because so many organizations have then taken a scattergun approach. They've not really gone into it. They've gone into it a little bit, but they've dipped their toe in the water, but they don't really have much intention behind it. I think that's the wrong approach. And that brings with it risk. It almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because anybody could try something and it's, I don't really understand it that much, so I don't get much value out of it, so it can't be very good. Well, what might not be very good is the approach that you take, and then you're going to miss out on all the benefits. And if you're not doing it, I guarantee your competitors are doing it. And
Yes.
if I extrapolate that by 1 or 2 years, I might even challenge a leadership team to say, look, you will be out of business if you don't adopt some of the AI opportunities. And what do I mean by that? Well, simply, AI gives you the opportunity to see around the corner. Let's put it that way. Because of the vast amount of data that is out there, we as human beings, and even with our little spreadsheets, can't crunch all that data to very, very quickly determine, are there any patterns within the data? Well, AI can. That's how it was built. Okay.
Yes.
And not only does it do it, but back to my point about using natural language to query it, the sales organization can literally sit there on top of their own sales database, let's say, which has analyzed all the sales conversations that it has had over the last X number of years and identify the patterns around good sales processes, good sales techniques, good sales language to use, best type of prospects to go for, probability of making a sale with these types of organizations or consumers. All of that data's out there. Using AI agents, you can get it to crunch the data, and then you've got more information to make good decisions on again. And you can choose to focus your marketing investment in a particular area without having to take scattergun approaches. And that's just sales. In the whole world of end to end service, I define 3 phases. I always say sales, service, and success. The 3 S's that I talk about, right? And I think they're obvious, but the first is how we make the sale, and it might include marketing and everything else that goes with it, business development and so on, and third party channels and distributors and partners. The second is the service and the operations. So when the client finally wants to book, how seamless and how effortless and frictionless is that process to do so. When they turn up in your hotel or your restaurant or your flight or wherever, how nice, how welcoming, how good, back to experience, right? How great is that service so that it makes them feel good? And then, as you said before, the success of that relationship is, how do they actually use your product or service, and then capturing that data. So next time Sam-Erik walks in the door, we've got everything the way he likes it. We've even got him a sweet deal in the way he likes it, and so on. So AI can be used in all of those phases, from a sales perspective, from a operational efficiency perspective, from a customer delight perspective, in all of those areas. And if you've not tried and started using some AI technologies, then you're almost already behind the curve, and you've got to
Yeah.
pull it out.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, uh, hotels have been behind the curve for the longest time, but I think now hotels are waking up, and I can see that the advanced hotels are doing that. I just kind of thinking about traditionally, you always had somebody who was good in coding who was working in the hotel, but in the organization you're dealing with, what kind of positions are there that are actually dealing with the AI side of things? What jobs do they have, and how do they go about it?
That's a great question, Sam-Erik, because with the dawn of AI, it does mean that traditionally, if you like, our IT support structure, let's put it that way, is changing, and has to change. And when I talk to my IT colleagues, I actually sometimes am challenging them to say, and provoking them sometimes to say, look, organizations are not going to have an IT department much longer, let's face it, because business technology is available out there, outside of our organization, and I can buy into it to the point of servitization, I can buy into it on a per user per month basis with my credit card.
Yeah.
Why do I need an IT organization? And by the way, they run all the IT infrastructure. We don't
Yeah.
need to worry about it anymore. How delightful is that? IT becomes more of a commodity purchase. Just like you or I walk into the room and switch the lights on, we expect the lights to come on.
Yeah.
And IT and technology is going more in that direction. Of course, I mean, we all have our mobile apps and we expect them to work. And for the most part, they do. So we've perfected the world of what I call business technology to such a degree that in the new world, you're now looking at, so how best do I engage with these AI models? And let's take ChatGPT, for example, or, you know, Gemini or Microsoft Copilot or whatever large language model people are using. Uh, the key there, it's not so much a language, but it's the prompt.
Yes.
So if anybody hasn't heard of the word prompt, that's where it comes from. It's literally the question that you are asking of the AI model. That's what people are calling prompt. And there's a whole world called prompt engineering, which is literally teaching you how to engage best with the AI model in order to get the best response. Because, like everything, and we've always said this, right? If you put, garbage in, garbage out. So if you just ask it a very vague, spurious question, then you're just going to get a very general, non-prescriptive answer, which doesn't really help and doesn't mean much to you and doesn't give you any value. Whereas if you spend a little bit of time defining your prompt carefully, with good language, with very precise requests, with lots of context, then you give the machine, called the AI large language model, a narrowing opportunity to go find the real data that you really want, because it's otherwise needle in a haystack, because the haystack's out there. And you
Yeah.
have to just give it an idea of what it is you actually want, right? So you have to have people who now learn how to prompt the large language models properly. So that's one. Then it's going to expose more by way of data science. For many, many years, and I've talked about the big IT projects that I was involved in. One of my very first conversations with the leaders in the organization would be, tell me about your data. How good is your data? How are you using your data? How well do all these systems conform to a data strategy? And then how clean is your data, how accurate, how up to date, how consistent, and so on. Well, if you've been a little bit lax, let me put it that way, with your data management previously, AI, and this plays to a risk, AI will expose the inaccuracies in your data if you are trying to use it in your AI models, because now AI does everything a lot bigger, faster, and cheaper than ever before. But if you put garbage in there, you're going to get a lot of spurious AI responses. Now, people often translate that to mean, oh, the system doesn't really work and this AI thing isn't much good. Well, listen carefully. The AI will do what it does, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you put rubbish in there, then you're just going to get rubbish out. So,
Sure.
data strategy and plan is a fundamental, and data science, therefore, is an ever growing need for any organization.
Yeah. So, this really gives me the feeling that somebody who organization. I mean, one of the best paying jobs should be the prompt engineer in any organization, because they are
Yeah.
because the questions are not just a simple question, but it actually is a very long prompt and actually requires the whether it's a chat GPT or Copilot, to come back to you, double check with you, can they continue, make the analysis, and etc. Because I use this myself in blog writing. I mean, this is just a simple thing, because I love to write, but English is not my first language, so there will be lots of errors in there. And when I write this, and then I ask, in this case, I'm using ChatGPT 4 to analyze, and also asks me the same question: give me a specific example of what you're talking about. So it kind of wakes me up that, well, I have to expand on my blog to keep the audience alert and interested in what I'm writing. And so I found it in the small things I do very helpful, and I can see how that is important. And I'm considering that I've been around for a while, and I'm doing ChatGPT at my age. So I think my question actually leads to the leadership of an organization. How can you get them wake up to this, or are leadership enlightened that they understand the importance to use this kind of the artificial intelligence, that it becomes an intelligent assistant for your organization?
Right. You're absolutely right. There's so much, and this goes back to one of my first comments, which is sometimes the risk is it feels like you're caught like a rabbit in the headlights, right?
Yeah.
You know this thing is happening all around you, but actually, as a CEO, as a COO, whomever, you're actually a little bit unsure where we should start, because there's so much choice. So one of the things that I work with my clients on is putting together a plan. And I get them to step back fundamentally and go, just tell me about your business, tell me what you're trying to achieve, and then I can start to make suggestions based on the business outcomes that you want to achieve in the next year to 2 years. Right? Don't talk to me about something you want to do in 10 years' time. I mean, let's get very focused on here and now. Right? Because we want to bring you some quick wins, to give you some quick cost savings, or open up new avenues of opportunity for you, so you get the real benefit within the next 3 months, within the next 6 weeks, right? And that's the opportunity of AI tools done well, is that you can really gain those benefits very, very quickly. Start small, prove the benefit, deliver the value. Everybody will then see it, and you'll go, oh, right, okay. And then everybody jumps on the bandwagon and goes, well, actually, perhaps this could work for us. So be very intentional, be very strategic, put a plan together, and that all can be done very quickly. I could workshop some of that with C-suite and their teams fairly quickly, and come back based on their business outcomes that they're driving for, come back with a plan and a roadmap for AI tools that they should start to implement. And then we can help them implement that. That's not the difficulty. It's actually sometimes getting started with a plan, with good intention, and with good leadership behind it.
Yeah. So maybe let's look a little bit at the future. What are the key trends the businesses should monitor and prepare for this year and next year ahead of, to remain competitive and customer centric? What are the things that you're noticing in the world we're living in now?
This year, it is purported that it's going to be the year of agentic AI. So not just chatbots, where the chatbot would deliver back to you the information for you to make your decision and then take the next action. The AI agents are now developing at a pace where they are now able to make the decision for you, assuming you've given it your permission, and even place the order for you, so that they become a true assistant without you having to do it. So you could, once the technology perfects itself, which will be this year, you could say to, AI bot Paul, make a reservation in my favorite French restaurant in my local town for 3 people in 3 weeks' time on whatever date it is. And by the way, my guests are going to be my wife, my daughter, and my brother, whatever it is, right? And the AI agent will firstly know your preferences and will know or be able to perceive the preferences of your guests. They will then be able to find in real time the availability of your favorite restaurant, because they will know your favorite restaurant, and they will be able to book the table for you. Let's say the restaurant has an offer of a pay 50% upfront, and actually they take 25% off the menu, the meal, the price, or whatever it is. Well, it will be able to then book the table, pay the 50% discount, um, money to actually secure, and it will be able to carry out that whole process without you as the human needing to be involved. Now, that is called agentic AI. It's where the AI agents now are given some agency by you to actually make decisions on your behalf and take actions on your behalf. That is the new world that we're going into pretty much this year, and the amount of investment pouring into agentic AI solutions is huge, absolutely huge. And that's where you're going. So, again, you see, leadership teams need to be up to speed in their thinking. So, they're at least thinking in this direction. Because if they don't do it, their competitors are going to be doing it.
Yes. Yes, very true. In fact, in one of my recent episodes, we had this discussion with the Indian friend of mine about
Right.
exactly what you're mentioning, and it also deals with you have your friendly AI agent or intelligent assistant, I like to call them, to
Yes.
look for the best price flights, or of course there tend to be it's the Wednesday morning when the prices are lowest, and then if you don't have if you're free to go, then they will book everything for you. So it's yeah, that's very
It's
interesting
pretty
times, and in
amazing.
fact, yeah. So
One of the other things, Sam-Erik, sorry, one of
yeah,
the other things that I read the other day in the world of hospitality, which I thought, oh, that sounds really interesting, for example, is just the whole world of dietary need or preference. Okay, again, you and I could say to our good friend, the intelligent assistant, let's put it that way, this is my diet that I want to follow. These are my requirements. These are my things that I need to be careful of, but these are things that I really like. Go find me some really great options for restaurants on Saturday night in my local vicinity, which will be prepared to do a personalized menu for me and come back with the options, or even then make some decisions for me based on the criteria I've given it to you, and go book me a table and book me the menu and actually place my order for me so that when I turn up, my food gets delivered based on all my dietary preferences and requirements.
yeah.
This is the world that is opening up in front of us.
Very good. Well, Johan, this has been a very interesting conversation with you about what's going on at the moment. I'm sure I have people already wondering, well, if I want to connect with Johan and Service Revolution Academy, so how can they find you and how can they connect with you if they want to start a conversation, so how you can provide that excellent service to them?
Yes, they're very welcome to find me on LinkedIn. You will find me under my name fairly quickly, or else go to service-revolution.com, and that's the website for the Service Revolution Academy, and you can find me via that. So very happy to have a conversation.
Very good. Johan, thank you very much. I appreciate you joining today's episode, and thanks very much for your fantastic insights.
You're very welcome, Sam-Erik. Nice to talk to you.
Well, thank you for tuning in to the Social Hotelier. If you enjoy this episode, please take a moment to leave us your review. You can do that if you're listening to our audio version, let's say in Apple Podcast. Just use your mobile device to put your short review. Or if you are watching this on, let's say, YouTube, I appreciate to give us a thumbs up, and I don't mind if you subscribe to this channel. The more guests I have, more subscriptions I have, that gives me the chance to bring more guests to this show. So, and we have an incredible lineup of guests coming up your way. So stay tuned for more thoughtful, provoking conversations. Until next time, take care and keep exploring.